So in order for black communities to have even been able to be infiltrated by drugs, they had to be weakened first. And they were. Not only by systemic racism, but also by deindustrialization. Let me explain. So since capitalism is a society run by corporations for profit, workers need protections. And in capitalism, unfortunately, they need to pay for those protections in the form of labor unions, who work to keep bosses accountable to decent worker treatment. But see, capitalists don't like that because that means accountability. So after hundreds of years of blipping over workers' rights, they continue to blip over workers' rights. This goes all the way back to 1947's Taft-Hartley Act. See, after World War II, there were massive strikes across industries: steel, coal, railroad, auto. Workers wanted rights and better pay. Capitalist politicians wanted no accountability, so they made it illegal to require union membership as a condition of employment, which sounded good but deflated workers' rights. It also weakened unions' political pull, required union leaders to sign non-communist affidavits which were used against them since communism implies workers' rights. This especially weakened black labor organizers the most. It also restricted secondary boycotts. Yeah, it was hugely fascist in 1947. Even President Harry Truman vetoed the bill, calling it a slave labor bill, but Congress, with a Republican majority but plenty Democrat, overrode his veto and made it law. Then there were the right to work laws, which allowed workers to opt out of paying union dues even though unions still had to represent them, in effect undermining union finances and discouraging union membership. Then there was 1959's Landrum-Griffin Act, which claimed to address union corruption, but it basically allowed the government to intervene in internal union affairs. You kind of see the plot here. Then it was appointing conservatives for the National Labor Relations Board, which led to rulings that favored the bosses over the workers, and making it a lot harder for unions to form. And by the 1970s and the 1980s, you had deregulation and pro-business policy. This was under Democrats and Republicans, Nixon, Ford, and Carter. These loosened enforcement of corporate regulations, including the Tax Reform Act of 1986 under Reagan, which gave tax breaks and incentives for U.S. multinationals investing overseas. See, CEOs were incentivized to cut costs, often by offshoring production over to Asia, Latin America, or Eastern Europe, incentivizing them to keep profits offshore instead of reinvesting in U.S. factories. These early changes made it way easier and cheaper for companies to move production abroad where wages were lower, and they could convince the country's politicians to blip off their workers' rights. As a result, many manufacturers relocated to Mexico and other countries to take advantage of cheaper labor and fewer regulations, leading to huge factory closures in U.S. cities. Hence the shift to shareholder capitalism, where companies focused more on increasing stock prices than long-term investment in communities. The impact was the Rust Belt. The result was unemployment, population loss, and long-term disinvestment, especially in working-class black and brown communities. This made it just ripe for the drug infiltration, which also implicated the U.S. government. See how it's all coming together?